Howdy, yokes, and welcome to Bacon and Eggs. I am Ben Carlin.
And I'm Ethan Edgehill, and I like warm hugs.
And today, we are opening the gates.
Or maybe we're just making 8,000 salads.
So get ready for a big summer blowout.
And let it go.
Because today, we're bringing you
Frozen. What? We're talking about Frozen.
What a completely and totally unexpected pick from
in
me.
the middle, yeah, what a crazy thing for Ben Carlin, and also in the middle of August.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But this is classic Ben Carlin for you. Like, I feel like I will have all of my Frozen theories hit me while I'm watching Frozen, like literally like on July 7th.
Exactly.
Yeah, because this is, okay, so, and I apologize for suggesting this movie in particular, because I know that not as many people that love it, I know some people don't, so I don't know what I subjected you to by picking Frozen.
Oh no, I mean, you know, it's like, it's the biggest Disney animated movie ever, or was for a while.
Yes.
So, like, there's enough people that like this movie that it's a perfectly acceptable call. We've done movies that people have never heard of before, so.
Fantastic. Yeah, that as a Disney theorist YouTuber, is certainly one of my tops. This is like what I fall asleep watching at night very frequently, or what, cleaning the house.
I mean, fair, okay. Real quick, I'm going to run some statistics down the movie just to give everybody an idea what we're working with. Frozen was released November 22nd, 2013, which is 2,105 days ago as of right now, which is crazy. Released on a $150 million budget, made all that back and some, got $1.276 billion worldwide at the box office, scoring a 90% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, an 85% audience score, and a 74 on Metacritic. Now, Ben, we on Bacon and Eggs review things on a binary scale. If it's a 0, people don't need to see it, and if it's a 1, people do need to see it. Where would you put Frozen?
I would put it at a clear and solid 1.
So you like this one. This is a good one.
I do like this movie. And the interesting thing about it is that, like, I was so not on board or even like tuned into like the Disney bug at this period of time in my life. So 2013, at best, as far as animated features go, I was like a purist Pixar person. Like that's right. What I saw. If it wasn't a Pixar movie, as far as I was concerned, it's like, it's not worth seeing. So this is,
might as well not even exist.
Right, yeah. Like, I did not contribute to that box office success at all. I didn't
either.
Yeah, I do not think I saw this movie for the first time until 2015. And for people who know our YouTube channel, the Super Carlin Brothers, they know that, like, our first big video for us was the Pixar theory. And the number one top question on that was always, where does Frozen fit into the Pixar theory? Of course it doesn't, because it's not a Pixar movie.
It doesn't, because it's not a Pixar movie.
But after being asked that question over and over and over again, finally somebody, I believe, mailed us a Blu-ray copy of the movie so that we would finally watch it. And I think it was quite literally, fittingly, a snow day, and I was just locked in my house and saw it for the first time. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was like I had just 2013. I think I had just started my junior year in college at that point. Yeah, so like okay. I was fully not clued into this movie at all. I knew it was the biggest thing ever because like everybody was obsessed with it.
Sure.
But when it came out, I was like, what is this? I didn't really catch on probably until I watched it that spring, I think, when it came out on DVD. And then I had to sing Frozen Heart for men's chorus the following winter for our big holiday concert. Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of awesome.
So our whole men's chorus did that opening bit.
I love that opening bit. I truly do. I don't know if you know of my obsession with ice. But
I'm familiar, but for those who might not be familiar, give us a rundown on how you feel about ice.
Oh man, I'm passionate. It's a big deal, honestly. And when you meet other ice heads, it's fascinating because that's a term I made up just now, by the way. That's not a real thing.
The other ice heads.
Other ice heads. No, this happened to me at VidCon, where I ran into one of the guys that works for film theory, and we were like somehow stumbled onto the topic that we both love ice. But what it comes down to is getting crystal clear ice for like a cocktail or like a bourbon drink, which is like my go-to drink, is so unbelievably difficult to do. Like it's not an easy task, and I have spent so much time dedicated to trying to make it happen with no prevail whatsoever.
You have not succeeded yet?
Well, I have some methods, but I don't have the scalability that I want right now. So
okay,
it's really what it comes down to is you're trying to impress people who are at your house, because there's nothing who's going to impress a guest sooner than crystal clear ice. So
one would hope.
Right, yeah, of course. I mean, can you imagine showing up to somebody's house, being served the best ice you've ever seen, and not commenting on it?
Well, I mean, I could definitely see people just not even noticing.
Oh, it hurts me. It pains me to think.
But it would have to be an occasion. It's like, I'm gonna make you a cocktail, and you hand somebody just 2 fingers of bourbon on with a giant ice cube in it.
With a giant ice cube
sphere.
Right, but like the clink. I mean, there's so much to it, man. It's amazing. Like you've got this big ice cube rolling around and like a flat bottom glass with bourbon in it. It hits the walls. It's satisfying.
Oh, it's a beautiful sound. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that like Foley engineers would go crazy over.
Yes,
but,
absolutely.
Fair enough. Crystal clear ice. Well, if and when you do achieve said miracle of the ice maker's profession, please give us an update.
I will, absolutely. Yeah, you'll be the first person over to get a tall glass
of ice. A tall glass of ice.
Enjoy.
But yeah, some definite foreshadowing from that first song too. I think that I caught for the first time that it's called Frozen Heart, and then she gets a frozen heart.
Yeah.
Now I'm not the Frozen expert that you are, Ben. A lot of this movie goes over my head. I watched y'all's video about the runes and everything, and I was like, that's probably right. That seems logical.
Yeah, that's getting ready for Frozen 2. But no, I'm right there with you, actually, because so many times I had seen this movie before we really started like tearing into it from like a theory standpoint. But yeah, that opening song has got like quite a few little gems kind of tucked in there that ultimately end up paying out later on.
Yeah, it's almost like they're good at this or something.
It's almost like they thought about it. How about that? But that's one of the crazy things too, is like Let It Go is such a huge song from this movie, and they wrote it in like one day.
I mean, I believe that.
Yeah. Is it?
I mean, it like there's a lot of people when it comes to songwriting. There's a lot of people that'll tell you like you got to sit on the lyrics for months. You got to kind of sit around with that. And there's some people that are like, yep, get it written, get it done, 4 hours in and out. Let's go. Come on, go to the next one.
Yeah,
we're busy.
Well, and maybe that's like the bizarro thing about this particular movie too, is that like I think even when like Kristen Bell's been interviewed about it and her role in it, and she's really talked a lot about how like she basically just showed up, recorded her lines, and had no idea that it was going to go on to be what it ultimately was.
Right.
So it is interesting to think that maybe there's a little bit of lightning in a bottle effect happening with some of the stories associated, where you hear that like maybe people, not to say they weren't taking it seriously, because of course they're professionals and this is what they do, but that so many things ended up working out in such a big way, when maybe writing Let It Go, was just what you did that day at work, like well, I don't know if it's a remarkable experience or not to know you.
I mean, I think that any songwriter that is like working for Disney writing songs and hears that, oh, Idina Menzel is going to be performing this song, I think you probably, it's not that you necessarily put extra work into it, because you would think that you put all of the work into it all the time, but it's like you got to think about that. Like that will weigh on your mind during the writing.
Sure.
But it's not like they needed a particularly complex song. It just needed to be something to drive the story forward, in that like, okay, I'm the Ice Queen now and I'm cool with that.
Cool. I see what you did there. Cool. Like as in temperature.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
You're so clever.
Totally meant to do that one. Got it in one. All right. Yes. Yeah, because it's like it needs this song so you realize that she's not the villain here.
Sure. Like it's sort of this idea that I really think Elsa inside of that moment, what she's going for more than anything else, is like she has just decided that she is going to go and live elsewhere. Like she is no longer going to be a part of the kingdom. She's not going to try to be this perfect person. She's just going to live up in her giant ice castle by herself, and that's going to be fine.
Right, on top of a mountain that's not very far away from Arendelle.
Although it's weird how she just like casually leaves the kingdom and has a nice jaunt up to the North Mountain, whereas like
right, it's like and this is where you can't think too much about the musical in this moment, because then it's like, well, she just runs up there and is like, I'm gonna start singing now, I guess. Seems like the thing to do.
Here we go. It's been a mere hour and I've made it miles.
Right, and then it takes Anna 2 days from there, like, to get up there.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know what's up with that. But I feel like that this movie has that sort of in spades, like where there's a lot of stuff that if you think too much about it, it doesn't quite make sense. There's one moment in particular that I always complain about with Hans. So shortly after, right at the beginning, where Anna's out there and she bumps into Hans and they're having their little like moment on the boat, and he's being this very nice courting young prince. The whole thing sort of goes down and he falls into the water and he like pops up and he like lifts the boat up and like smiles like, oh, it was so like, even though I just fell in the water, it was so exciting to meet this young woman. But at that point in time, he the character knows he's a villain.
He knows he's a villain and he knows she's a princess.
Right, but like the smile that he does when he like lifts the boat up is for no one. So right. it's like, in my opinion, it's an unnecessarily misleading moment in this where you don't need that smile for you to realize that the character might have been taken with Anna. Like it's not necessary for the effect of her charm, to be understood.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just one of those really weird things that has always stuck with me about this is this one goofy smile I think is just completely unnecessary.
I mean, I think they're just trying to lead you off the trail of him actually being the bad guy all along.
Sure, but like, to what end? In this particular moment, I guess is what it comes down to. Like, why is he the character smiling?
Yeah, I couldn't particularly tell you that.
Okay.
I don't know that. There's a lot of things in, we praise these Disney animations and Pixar animations for being so meticulous to details, but there's definitely a couple moments in all these movies where it feels like between the different departments, between animating and scripting and storyboarding and acting, it seems like a couple things sort of go by the wayside and like some keyframes get left in, some stuff like that, and it's just weird little things where like it might not have been necessary, but still just kind of ends up in there anyway.
Sure. But that's the thing with animation that I think makes my job in particular so interesting is that you never assume anything was by accident. So like right. even though as a person who works even in an office that has multiple different people that work on my own videos, like and where I understand that, making a movie like Frozen, there's so many more people that are involved in so many different rooms, and like it's not like they're all sitting in there constantly checking each other's like work or anything. But as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to animation, if it's in the movie, it was there on purpose, and therefore it needs to be put under a microscope. So.
Well, and I tend to agree with that because, like, with animation specifically, it's like somebody had to render that into existence.
Exactly.
It's like if you're dealing with a live action movie, like stuff happens. Stuff gets moved around on the set, like cups fall over. Stuff happens during takes, and it's always like these goofs, like, oh, well, he's got a Starbucks cup in one hand, and then it's in his left hand in the next scene. Oh. And there's all these things like that, but it's like, in animation, like, cups don't just fall over.
Exactly.
I don't know what programs they use to animate, but, like, Adobe Premiere isn't, like, making cups fall over.
Exactly, right. Yeah, like, those little mistakes that happen between the takes are not nearly as likely to be involved. Like, yeah, anything that's there is somehow meant to, or somebody intended it.
Yeah, so it's like, and that's, somebody for whatever reason, like somebody, if there's a cup that fell over, somebody drew a cup or animated or the computer rendered a cup that fell over.
Right.
It's like it's there on purpose. And a lot of the times, I'm sure it is just like, assets and stuff that they have in the computer bank that's just like, all right, we need background crap in this scene. Like, great.
Stuff. Yeah. Well, even going back to like Easter eggs in Pixar movies, so much of me has wondered before if Easter eggs were meant to be Easter eggs or if it was kind of easy to use like things that you've already built. So like, the Luxo ball in Toy Story, like they've already animated a rig that is the Luxo ball. So is its inclusion like a nod to the early, or is it like, hey, we need to have a ball in Andy's room? This one works.
Well, that's what's so great about companies like Pixar is that like they're not telling.
Oh, right. Yeah. If you want to give them credit for the genius that it was to include those throwbacks, and it's like, they'll be like, yes, that is what we meant to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas, this is what I prefer about the Disney Pixar fandom, especially over things like the Harry Potter fandom. Like, I love Harry Potter and everything, but I love J.K. Rowling. She's an amazing writer, but like, at some level, you gotta leave things alone. And if J.K. Rowling was in charge of Pixar, there would be no Pixar theories. There would be no Easter eggs. It would be like, she would just go on Twitter and just like rip those things apart and be like, yes, I absolutely intended for this to be written in there.
Right. No, absolutely.
And it's like, well, it's not there anymore, I guess. Pixar's just like, what Luxo ball?
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't planned. It's there. Although we have been on the receiving end of commentary from both Andrew Stanton and J.K. Rowling. So Andrew Stanton from Pixar and J.K. Rowling from obviously writing the Harry Potter books. You may have heard of her. I don't know. Yeah, it's fascinating. I wonder too all the time what the people making this content think about what I do for a living, where it's like, do they think it's fun to see the fan theories or is it annoying?
I think that there's no way that the people who work at Pixar see somebody delving deeper into their universe and like learning the little ins and outs of the movies like that. There's no way they see that as a bad thing.
Right. Let's hope so.
Other studios, I have no idea, but it's like Pixar, there's a certain element of perceived fun involved in just the whole Pixar existence.
Yes, I agree. Well,
because like even though they're predominantly mostly the same movies, I mean, the animation's similar. It's a lot of the same team that probably works on these things, but it's like the Disney animation movies are these sort of big juggernaut Goliath-like movies, and Pixar movies are just seen as these like kind of light, airy, fun movies, and they're basically the same movies.
Sure.
Like there's distinguishable differences and distinguishable styles, but like they definitely get looked at differently, and so it's like you expect Disney animation to take themselves super seriously and be like, well, this is the thing that we do, and Pixar's just like, la la la, balls and fun and toys and stuff.
Pixar is all about being remembered. I don't know who it is in their storyboard team, but every single one of their movies, in some way, shape, or form, the main character wants to be remembered.
Right.
So, yeah, I think Pixar movies, they just want to make everything as fun as possible and then also punch you right in the organ that causes tears to come right out of your face.
Oh my god. This freaking movie is the same way. I did not give this movie permission to make me cry 9 minutes in. Every time I watch this, I forget how freaking sad that Do You Want to Build a Snowman song is.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Because it's like, you just think about it, it's this happy, jolly, fun tune. You listen to the words, you're like, oh my god, this is horrible.
Yes, it gets, oh my gosh, and they go for it. I remember the first time I watched this movie, I was straight up floored when I see Anna and Elsa's parents going out to sea, and it's like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, and then it's like, oh no, like,
we're just gonna kill these people.
That's it.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's I don't know.
So it's like, you take the girl's memories away, you take her best friend and her sister away, you take her parents away, and that's 10 minutes in. That's your whole exposition. That's where you pick up, 17-year-old, however old she is, Anna.
Right. Who is remarkably well adjusted, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, with the exception of maybe thinking that, like, you could get married after meeting somebody for one day, but like, I don't know. I think that is probably.
Well, that's a princess thing, man. Like, that's an arranged, like, that's just such a kind of, not a joke, not a slap in the face, but it's definitely playing on that whole idea of like, this is how royal marriages happen.
Sure. Yeah, like where maybe there's not as much courtship involved and a lot more singing on top of clock towers. Obviously, that's the trope, right?
They finish each other's sandwiches, man.
Oh, that line is so good.
Yes, but it's so revealing, because I remember watching this the first time, and that's immediately when I realized that Hans was the bad guy.
Really?
Yeah. Well, first of all, because he looks exactly like the creepy, scary bust that she's dancing with in For the First Time in Forever.
Sure.
It's like he's got the same hair and the same silly sideburns and everything. But then when he does the sandwiches thing, he's like, "That's what I was gonna say." And I'm like, "No, it's not." It was not what you were gonna say.
Oh my gosh. So that was your tip-off. You knew.
That was my tip-off. Yeah, I remember the first time I watched this, that was my tip-off.
Man.
And I mean, granted, this is, at some level, it's a movie that, like, it sort of has to be, not obvious, but it has to be to the point where, like, a child can figure it out.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fair. I think the first time I watched it, I was probably not giving the movie enough credit that it was going to surprise me at all. So, like, that being said, now I go into the movie theater always, and I'm looking for every available clue for anything I can possibly find, like as the first tip-off point. Like, where do they make the mistake? Where are they too heavy-handed with it? And I think for me, watching Frozen for the first time, I was like, I don't know how they're going to resolve the fact that she could clearly be with Hans or Kristoff. I'm like, they both make a lot of sense for her. They seem to fulfill different things.
And I actually don't love Hans's reveal scene.
Yeah? What is it what catches you wrong?
For me, he just goes from like, "Oh my god, Anna, I'm so sorry that happened to you," to like, "I'm so glad this happened to you, now I don't have to kill you myself." He went like, it was way too quick there.
It's pretty dramatic. We've dissected Hans as a character quite a bit, and there is a theory that we've covered and elaborated on, and it sort of suggests that like Hans is almost like a sociopath to the tune of he pretty much mirrors the emotional capacity of every character he's in front of throughout the entirety of the movie. So like, and that's how we've been able to at best explain that situation with like where he tips his head up from underneath the boat and he's grinning like an idiot, is because he just met Anna, who's like a super happy-go-lucky person who's so excited to be outside for the first time in forever. But then if he's talking to like the Duke of Weaselton, then he's got like the backbone and he's like aggressive right back. And if he's talking to Elsa in her castle, like he is nurturing and like sort of has that like don't be the monster they think you are.
Yeah,
like,
that was a powerful line.
Right. But like he's mirroring her exact emotion in that moment too. And so there is in his like reveal, there's this really interesting scene where he like walks in front of a window and he like pulls back the curtain and he looks at himself. And that's one of those moments that we've always really liked where it's like, oh, because he's not mirroring anybody else anymore. Now he is showing himself.
Right, now he's just Hans.
Yes.
Ooh, ow, that's wild.
Isn't that cool?
That is very cool. Okay.
I love it. So, and I don't think that that's the type of thing that that you're supposed to watch as like a lay viewer and pick up on, how all of that is piecing together.
Well, no, and that's the thing is like I'm usually when I first watch a movie, I'm usually not the guy that's looking for, especially if I know it's a movie that's probably going to have like a twist like that. I'm not usually the guy that's looking for the twist. I'm not looking for what the because I don't believe that it's a mistake in filmmaking. I believe that a good film with a twist leaves you with room to figure it out.
Sure.
I have this problem with especially some horror movies, but especially some of the M. Night Shyamalan movies. It's like there's sort of no way you can figure some of these out.
Okay. Yes, and that's like that, what is that term? Jay always says it around the office, like the Deus Ex Machina.
Deus Ex Machina, yeah, Ghost in the Machine.
Yes, yeah. So that's sort of like a film trope where they just like introduce something that hasn't been there the whole time, that they haven't foreshadowed to, that is like a save the day button or a ruin the day button or whatever the case may be. It's
right, exactly. And it leaves you the bad taste in your mouth because you're like, it doesn't feel correct. Like it doesn't feel like, because that's where a good movie, and this is a good movie in that sense, it's like it gives you the bad guy from the beginning.
Sure.
But doesn't necessarily let you believe he's the bad guy. It's playing it sort of out in a way that there isn't really a villain other than the ideas that Anna has that Elsa has floating around in her own head.
Right. Well, and sort of this idea that like Elsa is not intentionally trying to harm Arendelle as like a town or a city or anything like that. Like that's her objective isn't to be causing pain or hardship. It's just sort of a byproduct of her handling the situation. So even like when Anna goes up there and she's like pleading with her, like Elsa doesn't know that she's caused this like, quote unquote eternal winter that's been going on for like 37 hours so far.
Right.
So even then, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's more like the character versus environment more than it is character versus character. But that being said, this is interestingly like a decision that Disney Animation in particular has been going with a fair bit here recently. It's sort of like the key twist at the very least to Frozen, Zootopia, and Big Hero 6, where Zootopia's kind of got like the wolf in sheep's clothes with Mary Bellwether, and Big Hero 6 has I can't remember his name, but it's like the main teacher that recruits Hero to come to the school, or he's got like a vindictive nature about him. And so the whole time though, you keep thinking like, no, it's going to be like this big evil villain, and then it's not. So it's interesting that Disney has consistently gone with this same twist. Like I wonder if that's something that will have started with Frozen and will end cap somewhere along the way. I don't know. It's interesting. Moana does it too. Like
I was gonna say you even get that in Moana as well.
Yeah. With Tafiti is also Te-Ka.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an interesting move. I think at the point of Frozen though, the key turn, the key villain twist was. It worked on me. Like I said though, maybe my circumstances were different. But
well, and that's the thing is is he doesn't really have, outside of trying to harm Anna, he doesn't really have a whole lot to do with, like, the greater problems that are affecting it, because, like, he's not the one that's causing Elsa to create this everlasting winter. He didn't really have much to do with it other than, like, just wanting to marry Anna, which I probably thought was just gonna be an easy matter of, like, well, I'm just gonna say this and hopefully she'll say yes.
Exactly. Right. Like, he even says, like, in his monologue that, like, nobody was getting anywhere with Elsa, so I had to try with you. And it was like, okay, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, his plan is weird. It's kind of different. So, I mean, do you like him as a villain, though? Like, where do you stand with him?
I mean, I'm sort of indifferent on him as a villain. I think that if I go back and watch again, bearing in mind what you had said about him being the mirror of everybody he comes across, I might look at that differently, but it sort of seems like he's just there to, like, throw them in that moment of, and obviously, I mean, there's always a plot device in every movie, so I can't be too upset about it, but to me, it seems like he's just there to throw them into that moment of, like, they have to be sisters and love each other.
Sure. Yeah, like, you need the impetus for there to be a reason for plot to happen, and that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Right, they have to have a reason to show that true moment of love that the trolls are talking about, and everybody, and that's where the truly great twist, I think, comes in, is everybody's like, oh my god, it's gonna be Kristoff. It's this whole time, like, he's clearly been the good guy, and then it's not Kristoff, it's her and Elsa, and they figure each other out, and that's the powerful twist for me.
Right. So
Hans is there as kind of the setup for that moment.
Sure. So on what level or at what point in time do we blame the trolls a little bit for the entire plot of this movie, though? Like,
well, no, you gotta blame her freaking dad, man. It's like, oh, my daughter has ice powers and she has harmed my other daughter. Do I go to a doctor to get the ice thing fixed? Let's go to the trolls.
Let's go to the trolls. They might have some ideas.
And the trolls just kind of like, let's, because, and obviously this is just, you had to have it like this to set up the entire conflict of the movie. But it's like, there's definitely a way to parse that problem in which, because I don't think that the like whole, if she remembers that Elsa has ice powers, it's going to make things worse. That I don't ever feel like that was fleshed out enough.
No, well, and it's not really either, because it's not like Elsa uses her powers and then, like, the effects of the frozen heart start coming into play. Like, that might be the better way to do it instead of having it happen. So, like, in the beginning, she gets hit in the head and she's, I don't know, she's got a frozen brain, a brain freeze, if you will. And, like, I don't know if they're able to cure it, but they're able to, like, set that aside and have it not be a problem.
Yeah, it seems like they basically put, like, a halt on it to stop it from getting worse, but it seems like they're setting it up so that if she sees that Elsa has ice powers, it'll get worse.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, like, just for good measure, let's take out all the memory of ice powers, and then it's like, but then when she realizes Elsa has ice powers, she doesn't get worse.
Right, and that's what I think would have been a bit more compelling, and I'm not sure if that screws with the frozen heart element of it too much, or the difference between those two inflictions, or if she could have just frozen her heart to begin with. But yeah, like, it seems like as soon as she starts demonstrating those ice powers, it seems like at that point in time, Anna is supposed to start getting progressively worse. And then, like, by the end of the movie, it's, like, reached its head. And it's like, it can't go any further. But that's not really how it plays out. And realistically, the solution that they have is not a solution at all. It's like, oh yeah, like, no, this is a totally manageable thing. All we have to do is have your kids never see each other again and never interact
conceal, don't feel.
Yeah, and never interact with anybody ever again. Like, I can't begin to imagine what is going on inside of this castle for however many, 15 years they're just sort of existing in the halls, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the Disney trope right there, is the princess locked in the castle.
Sure.
Just this time you have two princesses.
Okay, that's fair.
And so this kind of explores, like, and that's what's so interesting about this movie is the parents are gone completely, but we explore, like, what happens between the sisters instead of this, because there is no, like, oh, well, Papa says I can't do this, so that goes away. So you see what happens immediately when these two girls are left up to their own sort of devices.
Sure. Well, but I mean, they're only left to their own devices, basically. I believe what has been revealed about these characters is that Elsa's coronation happens when she's 21, and Anna is 18.
So Anna was 15 and Elsa was 18 when their parents died.
Yes. So even that amount of time, like, it seems like surely they could have made decisions in there.
Well, I think that Elsa is just still existing under that conceal, don't feel thing. I mean, that was her last directive from her parents.
Right. Okay. That's fair.
They gave her this whole, like, you gotta take care of things, you're gonna be fine. And but this is, again, when you start to get into the sort of plot devices that don't make sense, because, like, why did she have to touch the scepter with her hand?
Oh, sure. Like, couldn't she have just worn gloves?
Couldn't she have just worn the gloves? It's like, what is this? Since when do people who are royal not allowed to wear gloves?
It seems like, if anything, royal people exclusively wear gloves.
Right, like, if anybody wears gloves, it's the king. It's the queen. It's like...
Actually, we should cut to that scene where we see her father
putting on gloves.
Well, we have the shot of him from his coronation day. I wonder if he's wearing gloves in that shot, because that would be amazing if he was.
Oh my god!
Hang on,
it's just one of those. That's one of those things. Is like you can't think about it too much. But even this, I was watching my girlfriend. And she pointed out, she's like, "Why does she have to touch it with her hand?"
Yeah. It's a weird one. It's a weird one.
Because granted, I mean, that wasn't the thing that set it off, but it definitely put her in this, frazzled, frantic state.
Right. Well, and it's strange. Okay, for what it's worth, the father is also not wearing gloves on his coronation day.
Fair.
Yeah, fair.
But it's Scandinavia. They have winter.
Sure. And I don't even know. Okay, so what is going on here with the gloves? I mean, are they just the most effective security blanket ever? Like, to the point where it's like, as long as I have my gloves, like, I can hold my powers in, but the second they're gone, or are they like their own magical, like, force?
I think it's probably the former, just the security blanket thing, as well as it stops her from, like, I think accidentally freezing things when she touches them.
Sure. Okay, fair enough.
Because, like, if she doesn't... Because it seems like she can just sort of freeze things from skin contact.
Right.
And sort of that's probably the easiest way for her powers to kind of slip out.
So they just gotta slip out.
Right. It's like, no, probably not going to notice, but it's like, I could just imagine her, like, accidentally freezing a fruit one time and just being like, what?
Dang it! My fruit!
And so, yeah, I guess the gloves are a security measure, but they're also, they were the security measure put there by her dad.
Okay. All right.
And to me, that's sort of the only thing that, like, matters about them, is that, like, that makes her feel comfortable. It makes her feel like she can't do harm.
Right. So we'll accept that at face value, right? That's just what it means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, I guess. I don't know. You're the theorist here, man. I'm just the guy that pokes holes in movies and talks about how cool they are.
Sure. Well, I mean, all theories really are. So I love plot holes because plot holes allow for theories.
Right.
Because it's like, when it comes down to it, that is the explanation, is that, like, no, they didn't mess up. This is just how we explain it. They are magic gloves. That's probably the direction we would ultimately end up going.
I mean, I think that there's sort of, with any plot hole like that, there's sort of always two options. Especially where you get into live action movies, is like, the general plot hole. There's plot hole number one, which it was a mistake. And then there's plot hole number two, that is just like, well, there's probably a reason.
Right. Exactly. That's what I choose.
And again, that's the thing, is like, you guys have primarily done this with the animated movies because everything does feel so much more deliberate.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, moving on though, what else would you like to cover here? We haven't really gone in chronological order even at all. I don't know how you guys normally do the show.
Well, we sort of start the conversation and go where it goes and ebb when it ebbs and flow when it flows. That rhymed. I did not mean for that to rhyme.
Way to do it, man.
Sure.
I'm impressed.
Sure. I've got musicals on the brain. I think this not the first. This is the third musical we've covered.
Okay.
Behind Aladdin and Lion King.
Yeah, I like this movie as a musical. I think it is a good use of song for furthering plot development, which I guess is exactly the fundamental definition of a musical.
For sure.
But I think it does a really good job. This is one of those movies, especially with the music, where I like all of the songs basically on my first list, which is a fairly unusual thing for me. Like, typically I kind of need to, like, know it so that, like, I'm sort of, like, jiving along with the beat. Unfortunately, I would say, with the one exception, is possibly In Summer, Josh Gad's song.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, which is hilarious. I mean, it's, the winter's a good time to stay in and cuddle, but put me in summer and I'll be a happy snowman.
There's a lot of great sort of one-liners in that song that is just avoiding the fact that he melts.
Yes.
Because it's just like, and I'll be doing whatever snow does in summer.
Yes. I love the fact that someone thought to have Olaf love
the hot weather.
Warmth. Yeah, in any
love
capacity.
the idea of warmth.
The idea of warmth.
And even if it was only to set up Kristoff saying, I'm gonna tell him.
Yes. Oh my gosh. One of my favorite moments.
Because they're just both sitting there listening to this snowman sing this song about how great summer is, and they're both sitting there like, oh, buddy.
so someone's gotta tell him.
Someone's gotta tell him.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, I love Olaf as a character. Okay, so I will say what I thought was interesting on first pass of this movie is how late Olaf is introduced. because I don't think it's until like 45 minutes into the movie that you actually see him for the first time. And of course, all of the merchandise for this movie is Olaf. I mean, he's everywhere. I mean,
this is, again, the question I want to ask you has two answers. It has the answer that makes sense in the plot and the real answer. What is Olaf's purpose in this movie, Ben? Like, you've done a lot of research into this, I'm sure. Why is he there?
Oh my gosh, I 100% think he's comic relief. Like,
okay.
I think that is the function of this character.
But like within the story, like not taking movie conventions out of it.
I don't know if I have an answer to that. What are your thoughts?
That's the thing is I don't know, is like why. What is there a purpose that I'm missing that he serves? Is like, is it important for Anna or Elsa to have this anthropomorphized snowman hanging around?
Okay, so I mean that's an interesting thought, because I think one of the big things is it's the first bit of connective tissue to Anna having like faint memories of her and Elsa playing as children,
right?
Because it is one of those things that Elsa, like, she makes him in that opening scene where they're in the ballroom, like just sliding around, and that's where like Olaf pops up, like, hi, I'm Olaf, and I like warm hugs. So like the personality for Olaf, I think, is supposed to have this injection of the sisterhood, kind of like from the beginning. Like it's supposed to have that like childish logic that's so innocent, and I think that's really supposed to be where he's coming from.
For sure. And then you have what is likely the real answer, and I don't want to be cynical here, but you have what is likely the real answer is that somebody put a snowman on a storyboard and some executive was like, leave the snowman, we can sell a lot of snowman toys.
We can sell the snowman toys.
We can definitely, and they did, sell the snowman toys.
Absolutely. But that's, oh man, this is one of those things that I feel like Disney catches flack for all the time, is their like merch grab. And on the
they catch flack for it because they're good at it.
They catch flack for it because they're good at it. And like, I get it. So like Hasbro sends us like boxes of stuff, especially for Marvel movies, like where it's promotional things where they're hoping that if they send us some stuff, we'll post Instagram stories or whatever and be like, hey, look at this really cool thing. But they make some weird calls with it where like, they'll have the Spidey copter, and it's like, that's not a thing. Like,
this is what Lego does, man.
Yeah, it's like, why the Spidey copter?
100% what Lego does.
Oh my
God.
God.
Because it's not this way with Star Wars, because Star Wars has enough, like, Lego exists in the realm of, like, vehicles and playsets.
Yes.
And, like, Star Wars has enough of those, like, set pieces and vehicles that you can make convincing Lego sets. But then they go, like, we're gonna make Lego Avengers. And you're like, okay, we built a Quinjet, and what finishes that sentence?
Like, what else? The Hulkmobile, obviously.
So yeah, it's like you've got these sets from pieces of the movie that didn't exist, and like vehicles that aren't there, and it's the same. It's like you've got the spider copter.
Oh yeah. No, it's such a thing, and I don't know who buys that. Like, to me, in my mind, it's the unfortunate thing, or I guess my only frustration with the merchandising of these movies is that I believe if you have a child or family member or like a friend of the family or whatever and you know that they like Spider-Man and you have no understanding of Spider-Man and it's their birthday and you go to the store and you're like, I need to buy him a Spider-Man something. Ooh, the spider copter seems cool. Like, I think my frustration with it is that the spider copter is never, ever, 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 ever targeted at the person who ultimately has it as a toy. It is targeted at the person buying the toy. And I don't know, I guess that's where my key frustration comes from. But otherwise, if they want to include Olaf simply to be comic relief and to sell snowman plushes.
That's 1,000% why he's in there.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they could have gotten comic relief from somewhere else. They get plenty of it from Sven the reindeer.
Yeah.
You could have gotten more of it from Kristoff, but that snowman, I guarantee you, because generally they storyboard in order, from what I've heard for a lot of these movies, and that's sort of how these things come across. I guarantee you that one of those first storyboards in that first scene had a freaking adorable little snowman in it, and they were like, leave the snowman. Write him a song. Who's hot on Broadway right now? Josh Gad. Okay, Sure, we already got the only other one white dude.
Oh gosh, gotta get Josh Gad. Gotta get
Josh Gad from the Book of Mormon to be in a Disney movie.
I think he puts on an awesome performance. Honestly, I like Olaf.
He does. I mean, he's a great character. But it's like even the first time I saw it, I was like, why? Because that was the thing I knew about it. Okay, so when I had never seen Frozen, right, and I made it through a whole holiday season without seeing Frozen, and then it came out in the spring, and I think I watched it in the spring of 2014. All I had seen about Frozen was this freaking snowman.
Right. That's what
it's
I'm
like
saying.
I know about Anna and Elsa. It's Idina Menzel, Kristen Bell. Love Kristen Bell. Dax Shepard, Hurt. They got a great thing going on. You know. I knew Josh Gad because of the Book of Mormon, and it was like Josh Gad's playing a snowman. Okay,
with a musical number, not a very good one.
Well, I mean, you assume that anybody in a Disney movie is going to have their one song.
Sure, except for Kristoff.
Well, he gets reindeers are better people.
Okay, does that count?
I mean, it's not as big of a. Okay, so I've been having this argument out with our Discord for the past few weeks.
Okay,
about like. Okay, so you go and you make this movie, right? And you're like, we're gonna pull 4 people from Broadway, at least, and give them songs. And it's like you've got Josh Gad, who's like the hot ticket. You've got Santino Fontana, who was, I don't have any idea who Santino Fontana was in 2012 or how he ended up as Hans. But then you're just like, well, Jonathan Groff signed up. He was in Spring Awakening like 8 years ago. He's in Glee, I guess. Let him sing a song about a reindeer. Cool.
We'll give him something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the decision is there. You have a much firmer grasp on where a lot of these actors and actresses came from.
Well, it's just like because I get that I was in a unique position of being in college when this came out.
Sure.
And so it's like I was in college, I was involved in like the music scene in college. And so it's like everybody I knew and talked to on a daily basis by the time Frozen came out at the end of 2013 had seen or heard or listened to or watched a bootleg of the Book of Mormon.
Okay, got it. Sure enough.
Like everybody I knew. So it's like Josh Gad was the closest thing to a household name for me. As well as I knew Jonathan Groff from his roles. I didn't watch Glee, but I knew him from his roles on Broadway. And like obviously Idina Menzel is Idina Menzel. I mean, she's Elphaba in Wicked. She's the closest thing Broadway's had to like a superstar since Patti LuPone in the 70s. It's, she's the hot ticket there. And it's like we've got these 2 white dudes. One of them could play comedic relief. The other guy he's normally the lead, but we already gave away the lead to a woman, so I guess he can sing a song about reindeers.
Sure. I'm so curious to see what they use him as in Frozen 2.
Well, so between the time that Josh Gad hasn't really done a whole lot since Frozen came out. Obviously his career was boosted more by Frozen than Jonathan Groff's was.
Sure.
But like Jonathan Groff got a Tony nomination for Hamilton between when Frozen 1 came out and Frozen 2 came out.
Wow. Yeah, so that's
So like he was, granted he got a Tony nomination for being the one white dude that did anything in Hamilton, but that's a different topic.
Sure.
But he's like and he's in Mindhunter, like he's a big deal right now.
Okay.
They just put out the 2nd season of that on Netflix. Great show. Can't stress enough to go watch Mindhunter. It's very interesting, and it has ruined Kristoff for me because all I can hear now is Holden Ford from Mindhunter when he speaks.
Oh, no way. I'm gonna have to watch it. Yeah,
so he's the lead in that show.
Okay, I'll check it out.
But yeah, so his career has advanced significantly since Frozen, so I think that there's a lot of people that are upset that he did not get a bigger number, so I believe that Frozen 2, you gotta give Jonathan Groff a number.
I think so. I feel like there's got to be something there. And so that's something we can talk about, though, is just Frozen 2 in general, because that is a movie that I truly just thought was entirely unnecessary. Like, I love Frozen. I really do. And when I found out they were making a second one, I was like, okay, let's see what they come up with. And there's going to be some great big problem in Arendelle. Like, because now that, Anna and Elsa are like best buds again, it's almost like you can't really make that the key conflict.
Right. It's like, yeah, they're tight. Everything's good. Anna has her love interest. Obviously, you're going to have to find Elsa a love interest. gonna happen.
Yes, I mean, probably, possibly.
But it's like, yeah, you've gotta basically develop a second apocalypse. It's like you have to, because everything wrapped up so nicely. It's like we've got this beautiful, Nordic town where we go ice skating in the summer. It's great.
Right, exactly. Who doesn't love that? So, but
everyone's great. The gates are open. Everything's perfect.
So they're gonna have to leave the gates, though. Now they can finally leave the castle. So I will say, though, that the Frozen 2 trailer that came out, the very first one, in my opinion, is the best trailer that's come out this year. Which I think is saying something, considering it's been stacked against a Star Wars episode, the final one. I would say it's stacked against Endgame. So I don't know. I don't know what they'll come out with. I have no idea whether or not the movie will actually be good, but I think what they've teased so far looks like a straight up Disney princess action movie. Which the
teaser was great. I have not watched any. I don't know if there's another trailer or not. I have not seen anything other than the original teaser for Frozen 2.
Okay, yeah.
But I actively avoid trailers at all costs.
Well, I wish
I do the opposite of what you do.
Right, exactly. Literally, it's my job. So yeah, like the Star Wars Episode 9 trailer with Dark Gray came out this week, and so I'm like, sorry if I just spoiled anything for you. But yeah.
I mean, I'm aware of the things that have hhappened just because I do have like a Discord server and Twitter.
Okay. I was like, oh goodness gracious! I started sweating as soon as those words came out.
Oh no, you're fine, dude. Like I said, I'm not gonna invite any of y'all on the show if I'm not willing to talk about Star Wars.
Okay. Good deal.
I knew what I was getting into when I had Ben Carlin come to talk about a thing. It's like, I know we're gonna have to talk about the Frozen 2 trailers that I probably haven't even seen, and I've seen the first trailer for The Rise of Skywalker, just because it was forced at me in a movie theater.
Okay, fair enough.
And I have not seen the one that just came out. I'll probably, if I go see something and it plays before, then I'll watch it. If it doesn't, then fantastic.
Oh man, I desperately, I will tell you 100% that the only thing that sucks about talking about movies the way that we do for a living is the fact that you don't get to just be a casual fan of those movies.
Right.
So so much of walking into that movie theater is part of how good we're doing our job is how many things I could have predicted in advance. And that's fun on one end because it's exciting when you get stuff right, but it's also now if it's not what I predicted, it's somehow disappointing, which is wildly
Well, I mean,
down.
I think that that's a big statement, man, because I think that truly that is the problem with Star Wars, though, is that the statement you just made that if it's not what I predicted, it's somehow disappointing, has just become the mantra for everyone surrounding Star Wars.
Okay, but this is a thing right now because I think that there is a challenge that writers and creators of this big time cinema, or media are faced with, where there are so many people on the planet that are attempting to crack everything in advance. They want to predict it. And as a result, I think that a lot of people from the writing department are attempting to make stuff that is so original that it's you couldn't have predicted it. But what the sacrifice is with that is the endings of things maybe not being as satisfying as they still should be. It's almost like the idea of subverting your expectations is not always the winning card. It still has to be good. It still has to be a movie where you're heck yes. Well,
and it's you've decided, Ben Carlin, from what I've heard, that you don't like The Last Jedi anymore.
Oh my gosh. So I mean, I have a very weird relationship with The Last Jedi. So I get more excited about Star Wars episodes than probably any other type of media that I get. And I think walking out of The Last Jedi, I was determined that I loved it. And this has happened to me. This happened to me with Crimes of Grindelwald, which I think speaks to how blinded I can be by this phenomenon, because The Crimes of Grindelwald is not a good movie.
Oh, I 100% experienced that, because we had Jonathan on to talk about Crimes of Grindelwald, 3 days after it came out.
Right.
And he just gushed about it.
Yes, I know. And I mean, we've looked back on it so hard and we're what were we thinking? And I think a lot of it is the more, and especially within our world, our religion is the movie's lore. And so if the lore gets broken, then you start screwing with our ability to have these constructs that are required for us to be able to do our job well. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
100%.
so if you're gonna screw with the rules, then all of a sudden we can't use those rules as the backbone for the way that we write our content. And so the Crimes of Grindelwald completely screwed with that. And I think with The Last Jedi, it's like it's interesting the way that parts of that movie are parsed together. Like there are elements of that movie that I do really enjoy. And over the past week, we've been tearing apart the latest episode 9 trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. And with that, we've been having to refer back to The Last Jedi for tons of content. And it's like the whole casino scene could be deleted. Like you could just like slice the whole thing and get rid of it. I think that some of Rey's interactions with Luke on Ahch-To are really good, but goodness gracious, the fact that he throws that lightsaber over his shoulder, I don't know if I'll ever get over it.
I mean, I can definitely see where you're coming from on that. So as a theorist, like how often? Because I'll be straight, I don't watch trailers, so I don't watch a lot of y'all's prediction videos.
That's okay.
Just because like I don't watch trailers, like I don't want to know anything. I actively try to minimize my own hype surrounding a movie so that I can enjoy it as much as possible without worrying about what the consequences are to my own ego.
Sure.
So how often do y'all call something and get it right? Because like I know there's been big ones.
We have had some big ones before. Like we predicted that the Maledictus in Crimes of Grindelwald was Nagini.
And that was like a huge thing. It's like y'all made a t-shirt about that.
Yeah.
It was a big thing.
Yes. So that was one that we got way in advance.
Right.
We got the Flurkin correct from Captain Marvel, which was kind of fun, but that was also a bit more predictable if you're sort of just in the realm of comic books at all. And otherwise, I think you get like a lot of stuff near the mark. I know that a lot of our endgame theories ended up being like wildly off the wall, but what it really comes down to is we are here to celebrate these fandoms. Like that's kind of like the tagline that we've adopted, if you will. Like our hope with anything that we're doing is that we're creating an environment that will allow people to come together to just have fun talking about it. And so much of it to me is like the while you're waiting in line at the movie theater to buy your ticket, the conversations that people might be having with the person they're going with, where it's like, oh, I've heard that, Rey might do this or whatever. Like I want to be the person who helped influence those conversations, and whether or not we're right is entirely, I don't know. It is an aside. Like that's not where the joy comes from, I guess.
Well, for sure. But I asked that question to sort of pose this point, is because I especially surrounding Star Wars, but surrounding a lot of these fandoms at this point, y'all are obviously. I mean, you're making tons of thousands of millions of views on videos about these movies, and it's like y'all are clearly the best in the business as far as theories go, and you get a lot of these people that are pulling things, because y'all pull theories off the wall, and you've been crazy outlandishly right like twice by your own admission, but it's like people go into these movies and they're like, well, if Supreme Leader Snoke doesn't turn out to be Darth Plagueis, I'm gonna be mad at this movie.
Oh, sure.
And I just can't stand that thing. It's like, you're not you random moviegoer, you're not a screenwriter, you're not like, you don't have the skills necessarily or the experience at knowing what makes a good movie. It's like you're not going to be able to just pull the ending out of thin air.
Right. No, absolutely. And there shouldn't be such predictability to things. And I think that really a lot of it, so I feel like at the core of the question, it's almost like, does theorizing about these films end up hurting people's enjoyment of it because they're going in with their own expectations?
Well, I don't think it's theorizing that hurts. I think it's just blind speculation.
Oh, sure.
That when presented with your blind speculation being wrong, you get upset. And that's what I think is, because you've seen this with, like, the community is turning against Avengers Endgame as we speak. There are people out there more and more every single day actively hating Avengers Endgame.
Really?
Yeah. It'll come to you in a minute. It'll knock on your doorstep all of a sudden.
Interesting.
There will be people in your community that have decided I know that we have some of the same people in our communities, and there are people in mine that have actively decided they hate Avengers Endgame because Steve didn't get the right ending, Bucky didn't get what he deserved, Natasha should have done this, and Clint should have done this, and Tony was a fully realized hero before he had to do whatever. I'm trying to avoid like actual Endgame spoilers.
Sure. I think you did great just now.
But it's like, this thing didn't happen to this character. Man, screw the Russo brothers. This is wrong. This is the wrong way to end this movie. movie. The wrong way to end this series. And it's crazy to watch this fall apart because this movie made $3 billion. Like, I saw it like 6 times. Everybody saw it multiple times. Everybody loved this movie. It got like a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Universal acclaim. But then all of a sudden it comes out on DVD and people go home and they watch it in the comfort of their own home, not in a big theater, and they've had 6 months to think about it, and all of a sudden they hate it.
Okay. So,
and this is where the blind speculation, I think, starts to hurt, and this is the thing that drives me crazy.
No, and I think you're right. And I don't know what the source of that is. I mean, I think that in general, there's a bit of a phenomenon that can lead to, it seems like polarization is just a little bit rampant at the moment. Like, people either love or hate things in general. Like, that middle ground is getting harder to stand on, where like it is perfectly okay if Endgame is a 7 out of 10 for you to say like, yeah, I like it, but like so many people either need to have it be a 10 or a 1, you know, and it's like, if it's not okay, like if there's a couple things wrong and they decided or they figured it out on their own or they found a plot hole or something, it's like, oh no, but this doesn't make sense, so I hate it. It's like, okay, well, that's a really big leap from what is otherwise an immensely enjoyable movie, and you found one thing that you didn't like about it, and because you found, it's like, just because you have a good point doesn't mean the movie as a whole sucks.
Right.
And I think that that's a lot of what I see. And people sort of getting up in arms.
For me, sort of on the outside, there's a couple different factors that I see playing into this. The first of those is that, one, nobody wants these hugely successful movies to be good anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, because it like, it goes against the idea of coming together in a weird way. Like, it's almost like, instead of all of us agreeing like, oh my gosh, unanimously, like this was spectacular, it's something else entirely. And I don't even know if it's something that I can understand, because I don't know that's where I go back to with it. I think that's why I have started putting more emphasis on my theater experience.
Right.
In general, like, where I've said this before over and over again, but the 2 movies that have come out in the past few years where I was just like glued to the screen, like nothing broke my suspension of disbelief. I was just into it full on, were Infinity War and The Force Awakens. Those were just 2 movies where I didn't blink. I didn't think about having to get up to go to the bathroom. Like, you know, there was nothing that was going to take me out of the story because I was just so sucked into it. And as a result, it's like, you can point out things that are wrong with both of those movies and it does not matter. Like, the fact that Finn should have fought Phasma in that field with the electrical baton instead of just some other random stormtrooper, like,
right.
You know, great point. That's super true. Would have made way more sense for it to be Phasma. Doesn't matter. Like, when I was sitting in the chair, I loved every second of it.
Oh, for sure.
And so maybe that's just what I would emphasize there is to tell the people of planet Earth, if you enjoyed it while you were sitting in your seat, savor that moment because that's a good moment.
Well, it's like, the other side of that is that you know, these huge movie studios, there's a blockbuster that comes out every freaking week at this point.
Right.
And it's like the mid-budget movie has completely evaporated.
Right. Sure.
I mean, literally, when Disney picked up Fox, the first thing they did was destroy Fox 2000, which is like a very strong mid-budget movie studio that made like The Fault in Our Stars, you know, all these other, Love, Simon, all these other movies.
Sure.
That like are, you know, $50 to $70 million movies that make $300-400 million that people love.
Sure. So you're sort of saying like there's like a middle ground here between mega super blockbusters and indie films, essentially.
Well, yeah, it's like you've got movies that are going to make a lot of money and you've got movies that are going to win awards, and there's nothing in between anymore.
Right.
Because like, you know, Avengers Endgame made millions and millions of billions of dollars, and it isn't going to win a single Oscar.
Oh, right. Yeah, unless it's for like sound engineering or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's always one of those where I feel like the Transformer movies can like sort of like sneak in somehow, and it's like technically there is something about them that is remarkable, but it's not the story.
Right, and it's like the last time a Best Picture winner made over $500 million was Titanic in 1997.
Yeah, that's been a beat. That was it made way more than $500
It made way more than $500 million, but the rest of them make approximately between $1 and $200 million.
Okay.
For the most part, there's some like The King's Speech did pretty well. Slumdog Millionaire did pretty well. Green Book this year did pretty well. Made, you know, 300-400.
Sure.
But it's like, for the most part, you don't, you know, the movies that make a lot of money don't win anything, and the movies that win stuff don't make a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, and that's a complicated thing, and that's like it does make you wonder if there's just like the sophistication required to adequately enjoy something that is meant to be like an art piece. If that is just the mass appeal is just not going to be there by definition. Because if it is there, then it almost in some way, I don't know if it can like take away from what it's attempting to do, but it's harder to include like a truly unique perspective and image in a way that like just everybody's going to be on board.
Right. Especially in big explodey action movie that's 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, are we going to get to the point, and this is where people keep talking about like the superhero movie burnout, like, are we going to get to the point where we as an audience are kind of like, okay, we've seen it, we get it. Like, like big explosions are not going to keep bringing us out and buying tickets. But I feel like Dwayne Johnson right now is single-handedly proving that works in spades.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that's, he makes 3 movies a year, and every single one of them probably has a bigger, pyrotechnic budget than 90% of other movies produced.
Oh, for sure, 100%. But at the same time, I do think that it's not action movie burnout is the thing.
Sure.
I think that the what you're calling the superhero movie burnout is 100% probably. We are about to actively witness that.
Right. Yeah, and I think that Endgame might go down in history as a marker that can speak volumes to that idea. And of course, I have no idea what's going to happen with Tom Holland and Sony Spider-Man and that whole debate right now. But I personally think that the age of Tom Holland and how much they could have done, like getting to literally watch him grow up over the next, 10 years, there could have been just such remarkable development to be done with that character. And if that's gone, then that's...
I truthfully, I don't even want to lend credence to any more of the rumors. I don't think the contract breaking up between Sony and Disney doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help Disney. It doesn't help Sony because they're not going to make another $1 billion Spider-Man movie.
Right.
And as Sony's going to realize pretty soon, and no, do I agree with Disney kind of bullying them into agreeing? No, and I don't know that this is necessarily the case, but like if the case is as it's presented to us, Sony's about to realize real quick that 50% of $1 billion is a lot better than 100% of nothing.
Right, yeah. And I'm right there with you. I have no idea where, I stand on this particular topic. It's not one where I haven't publicly weighed in on it at all, and that's basically my stance, is like, I tend to assume that the people in charge of these decisions at least somewhat know what they're doing, and it's like, I don't think we've heard the end of it. I think we've heard the part that polarizes everybody.
We heard the first, basically, what I guarantee you is Disney was like, we want 50%. Sony was like, no. And the press is like, oh my God! What do you mean, no?
Exactly.
And it's like, it's contract negotiations. And they're like, well, Kevin Feige wasn't present. And I'm like, he doesn't do contracts. Right. He's a movie producer. Ugh. He's got 11 or whatever movies and TV shows that he just announced.
I don't know when that guy sleeps.
I have no idea. Yeah. But I do think that you're about to see not a quality decline in the MCU, but a box office decline in the MCU.
I can see that happening.
Anyway, let's get back to Frozen real quick and then we can wrap up.
Sure.
So what is important to you about Frozen? What does this movie mean to you? Where does your love from it come from? Is it just the work that you've done delving into it and love the story, or tell me about it? Because you were talking about it being a movie that you fall asleep to.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't know if I could exactly put my finger on it, other than I think that this movie had a weird benefit to me of, despite it being one of the highest grossing movies of all time and being this like massive mainstream success, I walked into it with basically low expectations.
Right.
And I think that for me, that has probably amplified my enjoyment of it drastically, because there's nothing better than being surprised at how much you like something.
For sure.
And I had no reason to not like it either. Like, it wasn't like I was rooting against its success. I was just indifferent to it. But otherwise, I think that this movie has actually been one of those where my enjoyment of it, I was probably more internal and quiet about, until I realized that my now fiance, Alice, also loved it. And I think that was one of these things where, like, it sort of came up and, like, you're trying to be like, I don't know, cool. And like, it's a Disney princess movie. But Alice basically is Anna in real human form.
Right.
And so I just think that resonates with me so much. I mean, she's just such a happy character, and her outlook on life, just, I don't know, I guess it's really close to home for me. So
that's phenomenal.
I don't know if that's the best answer to that question, but we enjoy it together, and anything that gets the breakthrough like that ends up having meaning. So
excellent. So what's going to happen in Frozen 2, Ben?
Oh, goodness gracious. So my favorite theory right now going into it is, you asked me about the runes a little bit earlier. So the big poster that they released is this great big snowflake, but it's not a snowflake. It's got 8 points to it, and a typical snowflake has like hexagonal.
Yes, as Neil deGrasse Tyson reminded us.
Yes. But that's the thing. I mean, I think it's incredibly on purpose. I think that it's a compass. It's going to have a lot to do with their journey, but the runes themselves seem to speak to this idea of there being bending powers, which is what we keep calling it just because of Avatar.
Right.
And so we believe that Elsa is going to be this sort of like the last airbender type of character, and they're going to encounter people who can do all of the other forms, and it's going to sort of come down to her to be able to, come about mastery in a short period of time.
To destroy the Fire Nation.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the Fire Nation. So that is our current thinking. We do have a video that explains it probably much more succinctly than I did just now. But that is what I'm hoping for, and I think will allow for a really spectacular film that I think allows these characters to go out and tell an original story when otherwise I feel like they were pretty well wrapped up. So
yeah, for sure. It's like because again, you're gonna have to end the world again. Like,
exactly. Right.
It's like they keep talking about a Moana 2, and it's like you literally have to develop more gods and like destroy the world a second time.
Exactly. At some point in time, it becomes an unrealistic version of the world if they're just always like under mass attack from huge problems.
From the great beyond.
Right. Although the MCU seems to do fine with that model, so
they make a lot of money.
They do that.
You think what's your box office prediction for Frozen 2?
I think it will be less than Frozen 1, but more than $1 billion.
Okay, so you don't think it's going to beat Lion King?
I don't. What is Lion King currently at?
Like 1.5, maybe northwards of that. Yeah, it's the highest grossing animated film of all time.
Okay. How about that? Go Lion King.
Yep.
I would argue was an only okay-ish movie.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't think it deserves, number one all-time animated movie.
Sure. Well, I mean, and there's your perception of the movie, and then there's also the box office success of it. And I think that The Lion King works really well, especially on a global market where it's just like it can appeal to just anybody.
I mean, I think The Lion King was about as good as Avatar.
Yeah, there you go. But no, I think Frozen 2 does. I think it does north of $1 billion. I don't think it beats the original for though.
I think Disney's gonna be happy with north of $1 billion. They're set to make like $12 or $13 billion this year.
Yeah, they're not having a bad run, are they?
They're not having a bad run because they still have Frozen. They still have a Star Wars movie coming out,
and they're launching Disney Plus with like.
I was talking about just movie revenue, like just box office revenue.
Right.
Disney Plus is gonna be a ridiculous drop in the bucket there.
Yes, it's gonna be crazy.
Fair enough. Let's go ahead and pull this thing together. Ben, tell us about. Oh wait, we have to give this a breakfast food.
Oh, a breakfast food. Oh my gosh. Well,
also we have to put it on the big board. Hang on.
Okay.
I'm forgetting everything. So what kind of breakfast food would Frozen be?
Okay, I feel like there is nothing else that it could be than an actual at Disney World Mickey Mouse waffle with just a gigantic scoop of ice cream on top of it.
Okay, that works perfectly. Actually, got it in one. There you go. That is 100% right.
Perfect.
Okay, on the big board. I'm not going to start from the bottom. Listeners, if you want it, because this is not at the bottom. Listeners, if you want to hear the bottom, you can go listen to some of our episodes that you think might be worse than this. I'm going to really start you off here. Ben, is this better than Toy Story?
Is Frozen the movie better than Toy Story?
Is Frozen the movie better than Toy Story 1 the movie?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is it better than Rocket Man, the Elton John story?
I haven't seen it. Sorry.
I'm gonna say yes. Is it better than the Christopher Nolan Batman Begins?
Oh, yeah. I'll say it's better than that.
Is it better than Monsters Incorporated?
I think I would give it better than Monsters Inc. And Monsters Inc. is up there for me.
Better than Monsters Inc. Okay. Is it better than Get Out?
I haven't seen Get Out.
Oh, you gotta watch Get Out.
I hear it's amazing.
It is amazing. So is it better for you than Toy Story 4 or 2?
I would say it's better than Toy Story 4.
But not 2.
But not 2.
Okay. I might have to get Tyler's input on this one as well, and we'll stick it up there somewhere.
But like to choose your placement of it. Do you do you disagree with me?
I don't necessarily think it's better than Get Out.
Oh, okay. Well,
you haven't seen that?
I haven't seen Get Out yet.
So I'm kind of parsing the list here together a little bit. I don't think it's better than Toy Story 4, but I think Toy Story 4 is better than Toy Story 2.
Okay.
And 3 and 1.
Okay.
So.
See, I hard disagree. I Toy Story 4 left me with just like a full barrel of emotions. I think that I could go on forever about Toy Story 4. I could have done an episode on Toy Story 4 because I would have had so many thoughts on it.
Well, we had Seamus Gorman on for that because that's kind of his thing.
That is kind of his thing. There's no better guest than Seamus Gorman to talk Toy Story 4.
For a Toy Story movie.
I will tell you that I did not cry at all in Toy Story 4.
I cried for about 32 minutes.
32 minutes.
Movie.
There you go.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, a good like third of it.
Sure. The one thing that I have said about that movie, and we said in our review as well, is that I think that if they had titled the movie Woody, I would have liked it more. Which I know is a weird thing to say.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying.
It's Woody's story coming to a conclusion more than it is any other characters.
They've all been Woody's story, though. That's the real thing, is they've all been Woody's story. Okay. He's the protagonist.
But he is the protagonist, but the accompaniment of all the other characters has been critical to telling their story, in a way.
And I don't think that was any different in this movie. I think it's just a different set of characters that you're looking at.
Sure. Well, we can agree to disagree. That's no problem.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's no problem at all.
Yeah, there are worse things to disagree over.
Exactly.
Anyway, Ben, tell us real quick where we can find you on the internet.
I am at Super Carlin Brothers on YouTube. If you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's the same handle, and it has an underscore. It is SCB_Ben. So SCB is Super Carlin Brothers, SCB. Yeah, so go and follow me. Come hop along. I talk about movies and stuff.
And ice.
Yeah, extensively.
Extensively talks about ice. Fair enough. Well, I'm Ethan Edgehill. You can find me on Instagram at Edgehill Photos or on Twitter at WowNow, but the O's are zeros. You can find the podcast at Bacon and Eggs Pod all over the internet. Our graphics are by Vaishon Brandon from Graphite. It's Graphite VMB. Graphite.vmb on Instagram. And our music is by Andrew Scott Bell. Andrew Scott Bell on Twitter and Instagram. That's really it. Thank you so much. If you want to join our Discord server that we've talked about several times during this episode, or I've talked about several times during this episode, you go to patreon.com/bacon and eggs and join for just $3 a month, slightly less than the price of one Lego coffee per year.
Hey, look at that.
Because the Lego coffee is $37.
That's such a good way to do it.
A year on the Discord is $36.
I love it. Oh, that's perfect.
Gotta love the Lego movie. Anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap that up there. I've been Ethan Edgehill. He's been Ben Carlin. And until next time, arrivederci.
Bye.